During my school years, field trips were common, provided by the prestigious district I studied in. One trip stands out: a visit to Woodloch Pines Resort, Pennsylvania. At first, it seemed charming, but let me tell you, appearances can be deceiving. That place felt watched. At night, things took a darker turn. My friend Leandro and I woke to the sound of something scratching at the windows. You know the sound, like a blade cutting through silence. We glanced at each other, tension filling the room. Outside, a woman stared, motionless. We froze, the air heavy with fear, and she didn't move, like a statue. That image burned into memory, a mark left by pure fear. A silent pause followed, the kind of silence that chills you to the bone and makes every instinct scream. Don't turn the lights on. As the night wore on, the resorts turned into a maze of shadows. Every tiny noise heightened our tension. Leandro suggested ignoring it, but have you ever tried ignoring something haunting you? It's impossible. The wind whispered through the windows, like faint voices. Later that same night, a chilling sensation filled the room. I opened my eyes, and there she was, inside. Her silent footsteps carried an eerie intent as she approached my bed. Ever felt frozen by the unknown? In such moments, control your breathing. Don't make sudden moves. Her face was blank, looking straight at me, piercing through me. Time stretched, every second dragging. Leandro beside me barely breathed. We were trapped in silent horror, each sound amplifying the dread. When you face such a presence, waking others isn't an option. Finally, she drifted away, vanishing into the shadows, but the fear lingered. We lay there, frozen, as silence enveloped the room. A cold breeze swept through, and a lingering feeling warned me. It wasn't over yet. The quiet held a foreboding, as if something awaited. The next night, exhaustion weighed us down, but sleep felt impossible. Every little sound in the room reminded us of the terror from before. Have you ever sensed something approaching in the dark? Suddenly, I felt a slight pressure on the mattress, as if someone was there, watching. With my eyes closed, I tried convincing myself it was all in my mind, but the pressure only grew. When I opened my eyes, she was right there, a figure by my bed, her moldy scent hanging in the air. Her calm, disturbing stare was so close, it felt paralyzing. She stayed for a moment, then faded as the wind swept through the window, taking her presence with it. But the fear lingered, filling every corner of the room. Leandro whispered my name, but I knew no words could ease what we had just felt. The night dragged on, quiet but tense, a silence that felt alive, as though something still waited for us in the darkness. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, and the stillness around us felt like a warning that the worst was yet to come. Years ago, during one of those school field trips, we visited a remote zoo, one of those places where silence is unsettling and seems to hide something. Have you ever walked through a place like that, where everything seems more than it appears? I remember clearly, I was walking alone, exploring, when a strange man approached. He had a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He motioned for me to follow him toward a trail he called the best part of the zoo. When the unknown invites you, remember, never stray. These small details make all the difference. As I walked hesitantly beside him, I sensed something was wrong. With each step, the forest grew denser, and the animal sounds faded away. It was as if we were the only ones there, swallowed by a darkness that seemed alive. The man kept glancing back every few steps, with a look that sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, a firm hand pulled me back. It was a teacher, alerted by my absence. She whispered, Never follow someone without letting others know. That advice, though simple, echoed in my mind for a long time, and I say the same to you. Always stay aware of your surroundings. After that, we returned to the group, but I couldn't shake the memory of that man's face. For the rest of the tour, he was still there, watching from afar, and the weight of his gaze seemed to pierce any sense of security I thought I had. Such encounters, however brief, leave deep marks. The place now felt heavy, and the forest around us hid secrets perhaps better left undiscovered. A silent pause fills the air, hinting that certain dangers never completely disappear. In high school, a field trip for a mysteries and mythology project took us to an abandoned village. Do you know that feeling of being drawn to a place that holds something unspeakable? That's how I felt crossing those deserted streets, with ruined houses that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. Lucas, a longtime friend, and I decided to break away from the group to explore a crumbling building in the distance. It was as if the air around us grew heavy with something dark, and instinct urged us to turn back. But have you ever been overtaken by curiosity, even when you knew you shouldn't? We entered the house, where the stench of mold and decay was overwhelming. Every step echoed, and that oppressive silence seemed to be the only sound. Suddenly, we sensed movement. A shadow darted across the hallway. Lucas turned to me, but neither of us dared to speak. Sometimes, silence is the only way to survive. In such places, I suggest you keep your eyes open, listening to what the walls don't say. From experience, I'll tell you, there's always something waiting, especially when you're unarmed and vulnerable. As we investigated, a muffled sound of footsteps began behind us, growing louder. Lucas grabbed my arm, and we both froze. We looked around, but the space was empty, or so it seemed. The place had a presence that went beyond the physical, as if something invisible was circling us. The silence was broken by a sudden noise, something falling in a distant part of the house, a dark warning that we should leave. And that's when we understood, some doors should never be opened. These stories are more than mere tales. They are silent warnings that danger doesn't always hide only in our imagination. And now, after learning these real facts, what choices will you make? Will you face the unknown with eyes wide open, or avoid the steps that might lead you to terror? Each of these accounts has the power to change our perception of reality. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember the hidden lessons within these stories. Now, I invite you to keep exploring the unknown with me. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and ensure these dark secrets remain within your reach. After all, who knows what else is waiting to be discovered?